Hey guys, and welcome to Unit 8, Part 2. So we left off with conversation, so we're going to take it up with conversation. Let's see. Right here. So it says conversation. It works for me. So we have Marta and Kevin. So let's see what's going on with these two. Once again, let me go ahead and raise the volume and see what's going on with Marta and Kevin.
Page 52. Exercise 8. Conversation. It works for me. Part A. Listen and practice.
So how's your Mandarin class going?
Harder than I expected, actually. I'm finding the pronunciation very difficult.
Well, I imagine it takes a while to get it right. You know, you could improve your accent by watching movies.
That's a good idea. But how do you learn new vocabulary? I always seem to forget new words.
I learn new English words best by writing them down and reviewing them many times. I've been using this vocabulary building app. It really works for me. Look.
Maybe I should try something like that.
Okay, so they're talking about learning languages. And an old friend of mine in the States, she was taking Spanish. And she said that she covered her apartment in Post-it notes. So whenever she went into the bathroom, she had like el lavabo, el espejo, el cepillo de dientes, because she had a Post-it note on everything. So that's something else that you guys could do. Like maybe cover your room and put a Post-it note on the bed that says the bed, the desk, the lamp, that kind of thing. So that's always very helpful. So it says that works for me. Because he's taking Mandarin. A few of you mentioned like you want to learn Japanese or Korean or already are. Others went with the traditional European languages like French and German. There was the occasional Portuguese. So that was really interesting. So it says, listen to two other students, Rick and Nia, explain how they learn new words. So let's take a look at that.
Page 52. Exercise 8. Part B. Listen to two other students, Rick and Nia, explain how they learn new words. Who uses technology to study? Who organizes words by category? Rick.
I keep a record of new words I come across. Then I make up study cards. I write the word on one side of the card and the meaning on the other side. Oh, and I always include at least one sentence with the word in it. Then I go through the cards whenever I have some spare time, like when I'm waiting for my laundry to dry or on the bus, and study the words until I know them by heart. Every week or so, I organize the cards into categories. I put all the words together that have to do with food, or work, or home, or school, whatever I can find that my new words have in common.
Nia.
I keep a vocabulary list on my phone. It's organized alphabetically. Whenever I hear or read a new word, I add it to the list. I also try to put down some key information about the word. Whether it's a noun or a verb, and some examples of how it's used. I go through the list and study the words as often as I can. I really believe that the only way to learn new words, even in your own language, is by memorizing them.
Okay, so that's how they tackle learning new words or a new language. How do you learn new words in a foreign language? What do you guys do to strengthen your vocabulary, your grammar, your pronunciation, listening skills? So that's something that we're going to discuss during class. What else do you guys do? What do you guys do during your WAL hours? All right, let's talk about it in class. Like I know because you sent them to me, but let's talk about different strategies and what do you think works best and what else you can do outside of class and outside of your work hours to improve that. Very, very important. So, of course, takes us to our second grammar point of the unit. So we have the preposition by followed by the gerund to describe how to do things. By watching, by writing, by reviewing, by watching the news, but watching, so not by watching the news, but by watching TV series. So how do you learn vocabulary? Well, by studying vocabulary lists. So you guys know the list of the 50 most common irregular verbs that I mention in every single video. You could say, by reading it, by studying it, by looking at it. So all of these work. So notice how they're using the modal could here. You could improve. So you can say you could improve, you can improve. I learn new words. The best way to learn slang is not by watching the news, but by watching TV series. So it's just always by and the gerund. So once again, we have 8 examples. Once again, I'll do the first one here. So let me get my text. So this one says, a good way to learn idioms is watch American sitcoms. So you could say by watching American sitcoms. The best way to practice what you have learned is, and then use in messages or conversations. So remember, you're going to have by, and then your gerund. Your verb ending in ing. Okay. So always, always, always. Students can become better writers, read more, and so on and so forth. So with that, you guys should be able to do it with no problems. And let's take a look at. Well, it says, complete the sentences in part A with your own ideas. So what else can you do to learn idioms? What else can you do to become better writers or practice what you have learned? What else can you do? So we're definitely going to discuss that in class. By doing what? Right? And here's the example. A good way to learn idioms is by talking to native speakers. And remember, native speakers are the ones that grew up speaking the language. Native people is very different. That's the indigenous population of a certain country. They're not necessarily native speakers. So just careful with those. Okay. Now moving on to the discussion and learning styles. So it says, listen to James and Sophia describe how they developed 2 skills. How did they learn? Complete the chart. So becoming an effective public speaker and learning how to drive. We have James and Sophia. How they developed the 2 skills. How did they learn? Okay, so how they developed. How did they learn? Right? So here we go. Right there.
Page 53. Exercise 10. Discussion. Learning styles. Part A. Listen to James and Sophia describe how they developed 2 skills. How did they learn? Complete the chart. 1. James.
I have a huge fear of speaking in front of people. Seriously, I'd rather do anything else. And I'm a lawyer, so it's all about how you speak and present your case. I decided to take a public speaking course, and the teacher taught me some great tips. By memorizing the first line of my speech, by looking out in the audience and focusing on just one person at a time, and, of course, by practicing a ton in that class, I was finally able to improve. Oh, and I always exercise before a presentation to calm my nerves.
1. Sophia.
I love to speak in public. People think if you love public speaking, then it's easy, but that's not true. I work for a nonprofit organization, so I give lots of speeches to convince people to donate money. I would tell stories and jokes, ask the audience questions, but they wouldn't donate money. I was too spontaneous, and I wasn't reaching them. So I started to organize my ideas. By putting my stories at the beginning of my speech and ending with numbers and facts, I had a bigger impact. I'm still spontaneous, but hard facts and data are hard to forget, so I always end with those.
2. James.
I remember I was so excited to learn how to drive. I was 15 when my dad gave me my first lesson in a parking lot. He taught me the basics and then wanted me to drive home on a busy street that first day. He said that by learning on the road with other drivers, I would never forget the basics. That was my dad. My mom was another story. She was so nervous that we never left the parking lot. I never practiced with her again. And it took her 6 months to get in the car with me, even after I got my license.
2. Sophia.
I'm from New York City, where most people don't even learn to drive until they're older. But not me. I first tried when I was 18 with my mom. I wanted to visit a friend, so we went in my mom's car. I thought by going slowly I'd be fine, but I hadn't thought about parking. And in the city, parking is impossible. After 30 minutes of trying to park and almost hitting 2 cars, I just wanted to go home. But my mom insisted we keep practicing. So we drove outside the city, where I finally could relax and get comfortable driving.
Okay, so play it as often as you need to. So remember how they developed 2 skills. How did they learn? So we'll review those. And then we have word power, so our vocabulary for this unit. So this is going to be very interesting. How do we learn each of these? I want you guys to fill it out as best, however you think we learn each of these skills. Communication skills, competitiveness, concern for others, cooperation, creativity, money management. In one of the classes, we were talking about buying houses, credit scores, managing a credit card and how tricky it is, right? How you always have to have some sort of balance on it. So all of that is very, very tricky. So money management, perseverance, problem solving, self-confidence, self-discipline, time management. We also discussed that in one of the classes. We're taking online classes. You're at home the whole time and you have space between classes. What do you do with that time? Do you do homework? Do you rest? Do you take a nap? Do you eat? Do you go for a walk? What do you do with that? How do you manage your time now that you're home all the time, but you're technically in school? So how are you going to handle that? And of course, tolerance. So who do we learn these things from? From our parents, from school, or on our own? For example, in the case of one of you, money management, you said, my father gave me tips on what to do with a credit card. Communication skills, competitiveness, right? Tolerance, and Perseverance. I'm going to ask you guys what you think perseverance is. Okay? And where do we learn it from? In my case, mostly, it was on my own with a slight combination of my parents. So this was for me, perseverance. I want you guys to answer this. How do you think we learn these? Where do you think we learn these? And how did you learn these? Because it might be different for everyone, right? For example, some people have very competitive parents, but other people aren't very competitive at home, but they are at school. They do school sports. They join the football team, the basketball team, the debate team, or they're just very competitive when it comes to grades. I don't know if some of you have been watching Modern Family or have seen Modern Family, but how Alex, the middle child, is very, very competitive with one of her classmates, with Sanjay, to be top of the class. So that kind of thing. What is competitiveness, and who do you think we learn it from in all those? So can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Remember, as always, the reading is one of the ways that you can do while hours. Okay. In fact, remind me to talk about what I'm thinking about the writing for what hours. I have an idea because somebody was asking me if there was anything else that could be done for more credit. So please mention it in class when we get to the writing. Okay. In this case, it says, think of all the skills you have learned, all of them. Read these questions and take notes. Then use your notes to write about what you learned. What is required to be successful at it? What are some ways people learn to do it? How did you learn it? What was difficult about learning it? So, for example, for me, let's take the piano. Right? What is required to be successful at it? Practice, a lot of practice. A lot of practice is required. Patience, time, all of those, very, very important to learn the piano. What are some ways people learn to do it? Well, they go to school. They go to music school or a conservatory. So go to school. They go to school on their own. Their parents, possibly. Private lessons. So all of these are ways that people can learn to play the piano. How did I learn it? Private lessons. I was lucky enough to do it at the time when I was a kid. What was difficult about it? I never learned how to read music very well. I know how to read the basic key, right? The one that pertains to your right hand, but I was never able to learn the bass key very well. So in my case, not learning to read sheet music very well. And that's why after so many years of not playing, this is what's become very difficult. But think of any skills, riding a bike, rollerblading, skateboarding, surfing, driving, Excel, how to use a computer. How to use a computer is a skill. You may not think about it, but it is a skill. Typing, knowing how to type on your computer without using your two fingers like chopsticks, like proper positioning, and being able to type at least 50 words a minute, at least. Typing is a skill. Whistling, singing, playing an instrument, any of these, writing. You may not think about it, but knowing how to read and write, you guys may think it's basic stuff because you learned them right off the bat, but many people in Mexico, many people around the world don't know how to read and write. These are skills that you learn, and many of you might even enjoy. So think about that. Learning a language. How are you guys learning English? What got you started, and how have you been learning it up until today? So this one has a lot of potential for you guys. A lot of potential. And lastly, let's take a look at the reading. We're going to read it in class. We always do, but let's take a look at that. Are you studying the right way? So this kind of reminds me of the video I shared about Mike Rowe about the right and the wrong way, and if we've been doing it the wrong way all along, thinking it's the right way. So are you studying the right way? You may study differently from your friends, but your study habits are probably not wrong. For example, when I was younger, when I was in middle school, so 12, 13 years old, I would always do my homework on my bed. Always. Like I would actually kneel on the floor, have the book on the bed, and write there, or just sitting or laying on the bed rather than using my desk. And my mom hated it, but I kept doing it. And it turns out that's the last thing you want to do. You never want to work or study on your bed because you condition your body. You condition your body, and then many times when you want to go to sleep, your body stays awake because it knows that when you're usually in that position or when you're usually in that place, you're still awake and you're still active. So that's why it's very important not to do any work or any studying in bed or on the bed. That's why when I work, I actually leave my bed and I use the couch. I don't do any work in the bedroom. I'm going to link a video about how to help with quarantine and really assigning places in your house as different and the importance of assigning different tasks to different spaces in your house. Okay. Um, and we will actually read this and see how much it overlaps. And then we'll go over the questions. I'll go ahead and put them up here. You can pause them, but I will go ahead and link that video. It's the only video that I'm going to link this time, and it's fairly short. I don't think it's more than 10 minutes. So everyone should be able to watch it. I've also noticed some of you are not connecting. Shame on you. I want to see everyone. Okay. So please log on. I actually have some announcements to make. So it's important. You don't log on, you miss them. Sucks to be you. But it doesn't suck to be me because I'm done. See you guys in class.